Discover the incredible hidden struggles of Victorian London's winters, 5 life-changing lessons. As the snow tumbled from the slate-grey skies in thick, swirling flakes, Clara huddled within her warm, dimly lit sewing room, the rhythmic sound of her needle-piercing fabric a small comfort against the howling winds outside. Each stitch was a prayer that she could keep her 3 little ones fed, that she could somehow transform her dreams into reality, and above all, that the biting cold wouldn't take her precious family away. In all of London, nothing felt more chilling than the grim realization of living in poverty, swallowed whole by the frost, while the world carried on as if their struggles were just a figment of imagination. Her husband, Thomas, longed for a better life, one with a title, higher pay, and a steady place in society. He spent long hours away, chasing ambitions that seemed to keep him farther from their children. Would wealth fill the empty spaces in their home, drowning out their children's laughter that was slowly fading like the warmth of their stove? Clara fought against despair, pouring everything she had into every seam she crafted, imagining the future she longed to build a small seamstress shop where she could pour her heart into her work, rather than stitching scraps of fabric for wealthy patrons. It felt like a dream worth fighting for, but her heart tightened when she realized that every day spent chasing that dream was a day spent apart from her children. Tonight, dread coiled in her chest, heavy and suffocating. Their youngest son, Oliver, had shivered all through dinner, his cheeks flushed with fever. The winter had been cruel outside, it twisted all life into a frozen wasteland. Clara gripped the fabric of her apron tighter, feeling that familiar pang of anxiety. She rushed to wrap him closer in blankets, desperately trying to save the warmth he lost to the cold. She tapped on their neighbors' doors, finding strength in the community that remained steadfast despite hunger and heartache. Together, they invoked the power of shared worries and whispered prayers, tightening their circle around Oliver. But all the while, Clara could feel Thomas slip away, drawn in by dreams that shone bright like the frost on their window panes, yet threatened to burden her alone. What's the point of wealth if it means losing everything that truly matters? She pleaded one cold evening. Anger flickered behind Thomas's eyes, but behind that fury was the pain of his own sacrifices. Clara could hear it in the silence that lingered between them, a taut string of unspoken truths. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Regret for their strained connection weighed heavily on Clara's heart as she navigated one harsh winter after another, fearing that the people they used to be loving parents and partners would wither under the brightness of unachievable ambitions. Would Thomas's relentless pursuit of status swallow their family whole? Would they lose Oliver before they can find their way back to one another? The ice encasing their lives, both outside and within, held the promise of breaking. Yet every heartbeat carried hope, painfully reminding Clara that the direction of their lives hung in the delicate balance of family over ambition. Would they choose love? Would they embrace the essence of home before it faded forever? The air thickened with uncertainty as they stood at the crossroads, teetering on the edge of resilience, waiting to choose which path their hearts would follow. Clara woke the next morning, her heart pounding, but the warmth of the blankets cocooned her for a moment longer. She wanted to linger, to stay shielded from the cold reality that awaited. But the sunlight filtering through the small window hinted at another day of challenges. She sat up, the weight of worry still pressing down on her chest. Oliver's small figure was nestled beside her, his breath shallow but steady. She brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead, the heat radiating from his skin a flicker of fear. After breakfast, Clara resumed her sewing, but her mind was scattered. Each stitch felt heavier, laden with worry about Oliver's fever and where Thomas had gone. It wasn't just the cold that wrapped around her, it was a thick fog of loneliness. She heard voices outside, the chatter of neighbors gathering for market day, their laughter echoing against the walls of her home. She had to remind herself that even in darkness, community was the beacon that guided them. Determined, Clara decided to venture outside. She wrapped Oliver snugly in her shawl and stepped into the brisk morning air. The streets were alive with children playing and merchants calling to one another. Clara felt a flicker of hope washing over her. If they could confront these bitter winds together, perhaps she could too. The shops along the cobblestone road bustled with goods and gossip. Clara's eyes wandered between stalls, catching snippets of laughter and friendly banter. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was an outsider in this vibrant world. Every laugh seemed to echo her own losses. She entered Mr. Farnsworth's general goods store, the warmth inside a stark contrast to the chill outside. He looked up from behind the counter, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "Clara. Good to see you. You look like you could use a cup of tea." "Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. I do appreciate your kindness," she said, forcing a smile. As she sipped the hot brew, the steam curled around her like an embrace. It was a brief oasis in a life tangled with hardship. "Have you seen Thomas? I've been worried about him." Mr. Farnsworth's expression shifted, a hint of something concerned. "I haven tea. He's been spending a lot of time in the West End, chasing some opportunity or another. I can't say more, but you hold tight to that young family of yours." With that, Clara felt a knot in her gut tightening fiercely. What kind of opportunity drew a man away from his family on the coldest days of the year? As she returned home, her heart filled with dread. She needed to know what Thomas was hiding, but confronting him felt like stepping onto cracked ice. When she entered their small home, Oliver lay sleeping in the corner, peaceful in his feverish dreams. Clara gazed at him, wishing for his health, his happiness. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, hoping that love could break the chains tightening around them. That evening, as shadows grew long and the winds howled, Thomas finally returned. A look of exhaustion creased his face as he stepped into their home. Clara's heart raced. This was the moment, the time to bring their worlds into focus. "Thomas," she started, waiting for him to meet her gaze, "we need to talk about what's happening to our family. You're slipping away from us. We're losing each other." But before she could finish, a knock echoed through the room, startling them both. Was this another reminder of their struggles? Or a chance that could turn their fate? Clara's heart beat faster in anticipation, uncertain of what would come next. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she turned toward the door. The knock had resonated like a drumbeat in the silence that filled the room. Thomas glanced at her, confusion flickering in his tired eyes. "Who could that be?" he muttered, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The knock came again, more insistent this time. "Stay with Oliver," Clara instructed softly, her heart pounding. She moved toward the door, unsure if she was ready for whatever awaited her on the other side. As she reached for the handle, a whirlwind of thoughts raced through her mind. Was it news of Thomas? Or perhaps a neighbor needing assistance? She opened the door cautiously, revealing a stranger cloaked against the biting wind. A woman, her cheeks flushed a deep crimson, was wrapped in a heavy coat, her breath visible in the chilly air. Clara's heart sank. She hadn't been prepared for this. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm looking for Thomas Gray." Clara's stomach twisted. The woman spoke Thomas's name with an urgency that felt menacing. She turned back to Thomas, who had moved to stand just behind her, an expression of worry etched into his face. "That's me," he said cautiously. "What's this about?" The woman took a step inside, her eyes darting around as if afraid the walls might have ears. "There's been trouble at the coal yard. I'm afraid things are dire. Your friend, Jacob, he's hurt." Before the words fully registered, Clara felt the world vibrating beneath her. Jacob was Thomas's closest partner at work, a good man, one who had a family depending on him just like they did. Hurt? How badly? Thomas barked, stepping forward, his earlier fatigue replaced by a sharp urgency. "I don't know," she replied, wringing her hands. "You need to come right away. He needs help. They're saying it might be serious." The unspoken fear hung heavily in the air. Clara's heart raced as she processed the enormity of the situation. What happened? She couldn't help but ask. A collapse. Some new safety measures hadn't been put in place. It was chaos. They're warning everyone to return to the yard if they can. A knot formed in Clara's throat as she watched Thomas wrestle with the weight of decision. She could sense the conflict swirling inside him. On one hand, was the urgency to save his friend, but on the other, the responsibility of being there for her and Oliver. What if he's too late? She thought, anxiety clawing at her insides. In that moment, she realized that she was not just fighting for Oliver's health, they were all fighting against the harsh realities of their existence in this unforgiving winter. "Clara," Thomas's voice broke through her thoughts. "I need to go. I have to see if I can help." He looked at her earnestly, as if seeking permission from her to leave. Clara felt the tears prick at her eyes. What if he didn't come back? But she couldn't cage him with fear, not when someone was in need. "Okay," she whispered, fighting back the emotions threatening to spill over. "Just be careful." "Always," he promised, but his eyes betrayed him. She knew the truth was far more complicated. As Thomas turned to grab his coat, Clara felt a sense of foreboding wash over her. With every moment ticking away, she prayed for Oliver's swift recovery and for the safety of Thomas at the coal yard. Just as Thomas was about to step out, Clara's gaze fell toward the corner where Oliver lay. "He needs you, too," she reminded him, a hint of desperation threading through her voice. "I'll be back as soon as I can," he vowed, stepping outside into the darkening evening. The heavy door closed, leaving Clara alone with Oliver's fever and the fear of what lay ahead. She stood still, the weight of her world pressing down around her. What if this night unraveled everything they had struggled to hold together? As the wind howled around the house, Clara whispered to the empty room, "What happens if he doesn't return?" The silence stretched out like a thin ice sheet, fragile and ready to shatter. Clara's heart felt like a pendulum swinging in a void, one beat heavy with fear for Thomas and another thudding with worry for Oliver. She moved back toward the faint glow of the dimly lit room, where their infant son lay wrapped in blankets, the rhythmic sound of his breathing the only reassurance she clung to. With Oliver's small form peacefully sleeping, she hesitated, feeling the weight of her decision. What if Thomas needed her support? Every moment pulled at her, each tick of the clock a reminder that the world had not paused for her internal turmoil. She wanted to scream into the night for a miracle, for everything to resolve itself with the dawn. But the chill in the air felt suffocating, and a deep sense of foreboding wrapped around her like the winter wind. Clara turned back to the door, her hand brushing against the rough wood as if it could provide her with some guidance. Desperation clawed at her throat. Suddenly, a crash echoed from outside, the sound sharp enough to cut through the heavy silence. Clara's breath quickened. It could have been the wind or some trash blown against the fence, but the fear it sparked in her was palpable. She bit her lip, debating whether to open the door again, to venture out into the dark. But what if she found him? What if something terrible had indeed happened? Every scenario played through her mind like a small film strip, each one worse than the last. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, forcing her legs into action. Moving back toward Oliver, she noticed how peaceful he seemed despite the chaos surrounding them. She wanted to cling to that peace, to preserve it like a fragile ornament. Yet reality pressed down on her like a wet blanket. She began pacing the room, her mind racing. Thomas was out there fighting for someone who might be taking their last breaths while she was here worrying about the minute details of their lives. She couldn't allow herself to be paralyzed by fear. She needed to be strong for Thomas, for Jacob, and for Oliver. The gentle flutter of fingers brushing against her arms drew her back to the present. It was Oliver, stirring slightly, his eyes opening to reveal the softest blue, innocent and trusting. Clara knelt by his side, cupping his small face in her palm. "Mommy's here," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. How could she keep him safe? What would happen if she lost Thomas, or worse yet, if Jacob didn't make it? The weight of it all was like carrying the world on her shoulders. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the slam of a door, the sound jolting her back into reality. Clara instinctively gravitated toward the window, peering out into the darkness. It was too black to see anything clearly, but the distant shadows danced unnervingly against the faint light of the street lamp. Did the door close too quickly for Thomas to have returned? As she waited, her heart racing, she also longed for news, any sign that the world outside was still spinning in its chaotic balance. The minutes felt interminable, time became a trickster, playing games with her mind. The tight grip of anxiety was suffocating. Just then, the silence shattered with hurried footsteps on the path outside. Clara felt her heart leap, hope and dread warring inside her. She had to know. She had to be ready for whatever came next. With trembling fingers, she opened the door again, ready to face whatever awaited her in the dim light of the freezing night. But the figure just beyond the threshold brought a new wave of fear crashing over her. "Clara," a voice called, breathless and full of urgency. It wasn't Thomas, and just like that, the world tilted once more beneath her feet. "What has happened?" she implored, the answer hanging heavy in the air between them. The figure stepped closer, revealing an anxious face that Clara recognized from down the street. It was Mr. Hargrove, a neighbor who had always been friendly but reserved, often avoiding interactions beyond brief greetings. His eyes were wide, glistening with a mix of fear and urgency. "Clara, it's about Thomas," he said, his voice trembling. "There's been an accident." The words hit Clara like a cold wave crashing over her. She felt as if the ground was pulled out from under her. "What kind of accident?" she demanded, her heart pounding louder than ever. His deep breaths came quick and shallow. "A car. He was out helping a fellow officer during a chase." Clara felt a rush of heat followed by a chilling wave of panic. "Where is he?" she asked, desperation spilling from her lips. "Where did they take him?" "St. Margaret's Hospital," Mr. Hargrove replied, his hands trembling slightly at his sides. "I rushed back as soon as I could, but you need to hurry." "They said he stop," Clara snapped, pulling him back. The words "he couldn't" finish took shape in her mind, carving out endless scenarios of darkness and loss. "Just tell me how to get there." He hesitated, searching for the right words, and in that moment, she wrestled with emotions that felt like they could choke her. She wanted to scream, she wanted to cry, but she had to be strong. For Thomas. For Oliver, who remained blissfully unaware of the storm swirling outside their door. "Right, it's just down Maple, and then the second left," he finally directed, his eyes darting toward the house. "I could watch Oliver for you if you know." Clara shouted abruptly. The thought of leaving her baby behind, even for a moment, twisted her stomach. "He has to stay with me." Mr. Hargrove nodded, sensing her fierce determination. "Then let us go. Now." Clara felt a fierce resolve blooming within her. She quickly bundled Oliver's blankets around him, the warmth against her chest a tiny anchor in the tumult of her heart. They stepped out into the night, the air biting and harsh against her skin. Clara's focus narrowed on the path ahead, her breath visible in the cold, steadying her thoughts. Every step felt monumental, pulsating with fear and determination. She could hear Oliver's soft breaths and the crunch of their footfalls in the snow. The world around her faded, the only thing that mattered was reaching Thomas. As they reached the hospital, a large building sat solid against the night sky, its windows dimly lit against the dark. A knot of unease twisted in her stomach, tightening as they approached the entrance. "Clara, I'll be right here," Mr. Hargrove whispered, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Just hurry." She nodded, heart racing as she entered the lobby. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously, illuminating the stark, sterile environment that made her bones feel cold. She rushed to the receptionist's desk, breathless and stammering. Where's Officer Thomas Gray? The urgency in her voice shattered the calm of the waiting room. The receptionist looked up, her expression instantly sympathetic yet clinical. Please have a seat. I'll get someone to know. Clara protested, the word catching in her throat. I need to know if he's okay. Please, he's my husband. Just then, a doctor in scrubs appeared, his expression serious, eyes scanning the room. Mrs. Gray? He asked, a touch of warmth breaking through his professional demeanor. What has happened to him? She demanded, bolting forward as a wave of hope clashed with rising dread. The doctor took a deep breath, struggling to keep his expression gentle yet straightforward. He's stable, but we need to talk about the details. As the words sank in, her breath came in shaky bursts. Stability didn't sound like the solace she desperately sought. Clara's world was suddenly a tangle of questions and fears again. Did stable truly mean that he would make it? Or was it a thin thread they were all balancing on, teetering on the edge of uncertainty? With her heart pounding in her chest, she couldn't ignore the unease creeping back in. Can I see him? Clara's voice cracked as she stared into the doctor's solemn eyes. But as she awaited his answer, a chilling thought encroached on her mind. What if this was just the beginning of a far darker chapter? The doctor hesitated, his gaze shifting to the floor, as if he could gather strength from the sterile linoleum beneath his feet. I need you to understand that he was injured. Clara felt the room spin. Each word pulled her deeper into a pit of uncertainty. She grasped the edges of the reception counter, as if it might hold her against the overwhelming tide of fear. Injured how? Is he conscious? Can I talk to him? Mrs. Gray, please. His voice was measured, but Clara could hear the tremor beneath. Just tell me. She cried, her voice rising in desperation. He's in surgery. All we can do is wait, he replied softly, the implications of her husband's condition hanging heavily between them. The word wait rang in Clara's ears like a clock ticking down to an unknown fate. Suddenly, the sterile lobby, with its hard chairs and sickly fluorescent lights, felt like a prison. She wanted to run, wanted to wrap herself around Thomas and tell him everything would be okay, but instead, she stood there, paralyzed. Oliver stirred in her arms, his tiny hand reaching out, and she quickly adjusted him, pressing her cheek against his soft hair. The faint smell of baby shampoo mixed with the antiseptic air reminded her of their evenings together, filled with warmth and laughter. The thought of losing Thomas shattered that illusion of safety. Is there someone you'd like me to call? The doctor asked gently, breaking into her agonizing reverie. The concern in his eyes sparked something inside her. No. No one, Clara breathed, holding her son tighter. I can't tell anyone this. Not yet. He nodded, understanding her need for solitude, and as he stepped away, Clara turned to find a seat. Everywhere she looked, people sat hunched over, isolated in their own worries. Each person was trapped in a world of waiting, slowly simmering in anxiety. Time blurred around her. She counted the minutes, fixated on the clock on the wall, the minute hand ticking forward with agonizing slowness. After what felt like hours, a nurse finally appeared, pulling Clara from her daze. Mrs. Gray? Yes. Clara leaped to her feet, finding her voice again. Is he? The surgery went well, she began, and relief flooded Clara. But he's still unconscious. You can see him, but he's in critical care. Can I hold his hand? Clara asked, suddenly feeling the gravity of the moment crash down on her. The nurse nodded, leading her to a small room at the end of the hallway. The scene that unfolded before her was daunting. Monitors beeped steadily, casting a sterile glow on Thomas's pale face. Thomas. Clara squeezed his hand, the warmth shocking against the icy fear in her heart. I'm here, you're going to be okay. Just hold on. As she sat on the edge of his bed, the coldness of his skin sank in. This wasn't he, her strong, brave husband, the man who once laughed more than he worried. Her heart sank, realizing that this moment could change everything, even their little family. In that stillness, an unexpected sob escaped her throat. She wasn't just crying for Thomas, she was mourning the future they might lose. Minutes passed, but they felt like an eternity. Then, through the haze of emotion, she suddenly noticed a flicker in Thomas's eyelids. "Thomas?" she murmured, her heart racing anew. He stirred slightly, as if fighting to come back. Was it possible? After everything he'd been through, could he hear her? And just like that, she felt a surge of hope, igniting a spark she thought might have been extinguished. But curiosity consumed her. What would he say when he woke up? As she waited with bated breath, another question simmered in the back of her mind. What challenges would they now face together, and would their love endure this trial? Clara leaned closer, her breath hitching as she watched Thomas's eyelids flutter again. She squeezed his hand tighter, willing him to wake up, willing him to see her. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please come back to me." The rhythmic beeping of the monitor filled the silence, punctuating her desperate plea. Oliver gurgled softly in her arms, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the moment, and Clara stole a glance at her son's innocent face. In contrast, the pallor of Thomas's skin and the invasive tubes surrounding him struck her like a cold wave. Anxiety coiled in her stomach, tightening with every second that passed. Is it wrong to hope? She thought, the question echoing through her mind. For the first time, she felt the weight of her love for Thomas transforming into something more profound, more resilient. She had wanted to protect him, but here he was, fighting a battle she couldn't shield him from. Just then, a soft moan escaped from Thomas's lips, and Clara's heart fluttered. "Thomas," she called again, this time louder and more urgent. Hope danced in her chest, igniting her spirit. His eyes twitched beneath the closed lids, and Clara leaned in closer, cradling Oliver against her chest. "I'm right here, babe. It's Clara, your wife. I love you." In the haze of pain and confusion, Thomas took a shallow breath, and Clara saw the flicker of recognition in his expression. She held on to it, her heart soaring. "You have to fight. You need to stay with us. Our family needs you." Another flicker. This time his eyelids were heavier, but they slowly parted, revealing glazed eyes that seemed to search for her. "Clara?" he croaked, his voice barely a whisper. Her heart raced, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. "Yes. Yes, I'm here." She sobbed, laughter mingling with her tears as she brushed her hair out of her face. "I knew you'd come back to me. Please, just hold on a little longer. The doctors are here. They're taking good care of you." What happened?" he mumbled, his brows furrowing as his breath quickened. The confusion in his eyes was palpable, and she saw the panic rising. "A car accident. You've been in surgery," Clara explained gently, not wanting to overwhelm him. "But baby, you're going to be okay. Just take a breath. Focus on me." He nodded slightly, though it seemed to take all his strength. Clara wished she could take away the tubes and the monitors, the entire sterile environment that threatened to suffocate their bond. She placed her other hand on his forehead, smoothing back his tousled hair. The intimacy felt natural, grounding them both. Time lost its meaning as they locked eyes, and in that moment, Clara felt a connection deeper than any words could convey. They would get through this together. Then she remembered Oliver and turned to her son, who gurgled happily, completely oblivious to the gravity of their situation. "Thomas, this is Oliver, our son." She turned back, smiling through her tears, her heart swelling with pride. "He's beautiful, isn't he?" Thomas's eyes went wide as he shifted slightly in the bed, his strength fading for a moment. "Ollie Oliver?" he breathed, both confused and awestruck. "Yes. Just like we talked about. He's here, Thomas. He's our life, our little miracle." Clara beamed, knowing that the essence of their love had been captured in this baby. But the uncertainty loomed in the back of her mind. She still feared what lay ahead. Would Thomas fully recover? How would they navigate the next chapters of their lives? Would their love survive the trials ahead? As Thomas's eyelids began to droop again, Clara's heart sank. Even amidst the flicker of hope illuminated between them, the battle was far from over. "Thomas," she urged softly, willing him to fight. She could feel the heaviness of what lay ahead pressing down on her with every passing heartbeat. With the fragile thread of hope connecting them, she pondered what they would uncover together in this new reality. What hidden struggles awaited them, and would their love withstand the storm threatening to engulf their family? Clara's heart raced when she noticed Thomas's eyes becoming glassy once more. "No, no, please don't do this," she pleaded, voice trembling. She needed him to fight, not just for himself but for their small family. "We're here, Thomas. Don't leave us." As the monitor beeped steadily, each sound felt like a lifeline linking her to him. Oliver stirred in her arms, sensing her unease. She shifted him gently and took a deep breath, steadying herself. "You need to see your son, Thomas. He is so perfect, just wait till you hold him," she whispered, trying to replace fear with hope. "Oliver," Thomas murmured, struggling to keep his eyelids from closing. His voice was weaker now, each word an exhausting effort. "He's really ours?" Holding back sobs, Clara nodded fervently. "Yes. Every bit of him is you and me. Look at him, Thomas." Clara lifted Oliver higher, allowing Thomas to steal a glimpse of their son, his tiny hands curled, eyes wide, studying the world around him. For a moment, everything else faded. "He looks like you," Clara reassured, fighting to keep her voice steadied. A small smile flickered on Thomas's lips, and his eyes seemed to soften. "He's so tiny." The connection hummed between them, creating an invisible bond that felt strong enough to conquer the chaos surrounding them, but reality crashed back down as Thomas inhaled sharply and closed his eyes. Clara's heart plummeted. "Stay with me," she urged, panic seeping into her voice. "Look at Oliver. He needs you. We need you." Thomas's brow tightened, and she could see the struggle etched across his face. Just then, a nurse entered, wearing a calm expression. "How's everything going in here?" "Thomas is waking up," Clara rushed to explain, relief mixing with urgency. "But he feels," the nurse nodded, stepping closer to the bed. "It's normal for him to fatigue easily. Just keep talking to him, it helps more than you know." Clara swallowed hard, filling the space with her words, weaving a tapestry of memories. "Remember that time at the beach? You buried me in sand. You said I'd be the best mermaid ever." She laughed through her tears, imagining his playful smirk, the way he would pretend to be a sea captain. When Thomas's eyes fluttered open once more, the worry melted from her heart. "You wanted to save me from seagulls," he managed to chuckle weakly, the tension releasing a little. "Yes, and now the seagulls are gone. But we have a bigger challenge in front of us." "I don't want to miss anything," he whispered, a tear escaping the corner of his eye. "You won tea. We're in this together. I'll be by your side every step of the way," she promised, squeezing his hand tighter. Yet, beneath the surface, fear gripped her heart. What if Thomas wouldn't fully recover? Clara glanced at Oliver, who giggled at the nurse adjusting the machines. The simplicity of his laugh was a reminder of what they were fighting for, a life filled with laughter, not just struggles. With mounting urgency, the nurse checked Thomas's vitals, her brow furrowing slightly. "He needs to keep up his strength. It's crucial." Clara nodded, determination igniting within her. Somehow, she had to keep this fragile family together. But even as they shared smiles, Clara felt the looming darkness still hovering, threatening to steal those precious moments away. "What's the next step for me?" Thomas asked, his voice dropping to a whisper laced with worry. "I don't know," Clara admitted. "But we'll find out together." As uncertainty lingered in the air, Clara felt the weight of what was to come press upon her. She could only hope they were prepared for the challenges ahead, ever ready to hold on to the flickering light of their love, and as she looked into Thomas's weary eyes, a question arose: would they find the strength to face whatever storm lay ahead, or would it overwhelm them all? Clara tried to breathe through the tension, willing Thomas to stay focused. "Just look at Oliver, honey. You are his hero, and he needs you." She cradled their son closer, feeling the warmth of Oliver's small body against her chest, a comforting reminder of life beyond the sterile walls of the hospital room. Thomas's breaths were shallow, slower than before. "Tell me more about him." His voice cracked, revealing the vulnerability beneath his brave facade. "He loves to kick when he's awake. I think he's already trying to find his way in the world," Clara shared, her smile hiding the worry clawing at her insides. "He's really strong, just like you." She hoped those words would travel to the part of Thomas that was still fighting, still alive and aware, buried beneath layers of exhaustion and pain. Slowly, Clara could see a flicker of interest in Thomas's eyes. "What about his hair? Is it dark yet?" "Yes. Almost like yours." No longer able to fight back her tears, she allowed one to fall down her cheek. A smile broke through her sadness when she saw Thomas's lips curl upward gently. Just then, another nurse entered, clipboard in hand. Clara glanced at her badge. It read Joy. That felt entirely too ironic at the moment. "Good news," Joy said, her voice light against the bleak room. "We're starting a new treatment regime this evening that should help Thomas regain his strength more quickly." Clara felt a rush of relief. "What does that mean?" she asked, eager for details but wary of false hope. "It involves some new medications and encouragement to keep his spirits up. If we can convince him to eat and engage more, he should respond well," Joy explained, keeping her tone optimistic. "Okay, we can do that, can't we?" Clara turned back to Thomas. "You just need to remember all the joy that's waiting for you at home. I want to be there for his first steps, Clara. I don't want to miss anything." Thomas's voice was strained but determined, his fierce love pushing through the haze of his illness. "You won tea, together, we'll make sure of it." Clara squeezed his hand tighter, her heart swelling, a mix of hope intertwined with lingering fear. Would their dreams of a happy family really come true? As Joy interacted with the medical equipment, Clara let her mind wander to all the moments they had yet to share as a family. Imagining birthday parties, family outings, quiet evenings together, it felt so vivid and tempting. But the harsh click of the monitor's beeping kept grounding her in reality. I wish everything could be just like before," Clara admitted softly, her gaze dropping to Oliver's tiny face, blissfully unaware of the weight of adult worries. After a few moments of pensive silence, Thomas broke it, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll fight, I promise. I don't want to leave you and Oliver." Clara felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. "That's all I need to know. We'll find our way there together." The tension in the room tightened again, but hope flickered like a candle fighting against the dark. Oliver let out a soft coo, breaking the somber mood, and Clara smiled at their son. "Looks like someone is ready for a little adventure." Thomas's focus moved to Oliver, his expression softening. "You just have to keep him healthy, Clara. Promise me." "I promise," she said, the words solid and sure. And she meant it. As moments stretched into hours, their faces intertwined in dreams of family bliss, Clara found herself yearning for something she couldn't quite articulate. It gnawed at her, some looming truth she feared to confront, but what was it? She couldn't shake that question, and as sleep threatened to pull her under, she knew deep down that this was only the beginning. How much would they have to face as they continued this journey together? And in the quiet stillness of that hospital room, as Thomas's eyelids began to droop and Oliver settled into a peaceful slumber, one last thought perched at the edge of Clara's mind: would the love they shared be enough to weather the storm brewing just beyond their sight? The morning sun streamed through the hospital window, casting a warm glow across Thomas's pale face. Clara awoke to the soft cooing of Oliver, leaning over to kiss her son's forehead. In the stillness of that moment, she felt a flicker of hope illuminate an otherwise harrowing night. Thomas lay in the bed beside them, still navigating the fog of recovery. Clara squeezed his hand tightly. "How are you feeling, love?" She smiled through her worry, ready to embrace whatever journey lay ahead. "Like I've been hit by a stampede," he replied with a weak chuckle, his voice still hoarse. But the glimmer in his eyes reassured her. He was here. All of them were together. "Just keep resting. We'll take it one step at a time," Clara said, brushing a few errant strands of hair from his forehead. "Oliver," he murmured, his gaze drifting to their son, who intensified his cooing, mirroring the hope in the room. "I want to hold him." "Let us make that happen," Clara encouraged, calling in a nurse for help. Joy arrived, and together they carefully positioned Oliver in Thomas's arms. Watching her husband cradle their child ignited a warmth in Clara's chest. The way Thomas gazed at the tiny being in his hands melted away the shards of fear that had been lodged in her heart. "Look at us," Thomas breathed, his eyes shining with love. "I can't believe we made this little miracle. We're going to build a wonderful life for him, Thomas." "We will," Clara affirmed, her determination strengthening. Those words felt fragile yet bold, lifting the weight feeling heavy on her spirit. Every day that followed brought new routines. The hospital became their temporary home, each visit from doctors became infusions of courage. They learned about lessons that the harshness of winter had forged into something new, a commitment to connection, determination over despair. Days turned into weeks, and Thomas grew stronger each moment, delighting in every laugh and coo Oliver provided. Clara watched in awe as her husband emerged from the shadows, the spark returning to his eyes and spirit. But healing was not without its challenges. One evening, while sketching plans for a small sewing shop, Clara's eyes fell on Thomas, who sat across from her, struggling with a haunted expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, her heart racing with concern. "I'm scared, Clara," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck, a familiar gesture that made her heart ache. "What if I'm not enough? What if I still can't provide for you both?" "Enough?" Clara shook her head gently, feeling the intensity of love pulling her closer. "You are everything. More than I ever dreamed. We didn't build this family on wealth or status, we built it on love. It's what keeps us together." Thomas looked into her eyes, vulnerability etched into his brows. "You make it sound so simple." "It is, but it's not easy. We can build our dreams together. We face whatever comes together," she said firmly, "with love." In that moment, something shifted. The weight of fears began to separate, as if the very words woven between them created a tangible bond of resilience. As the days continued, Thomas embraced his own dream of opening a small shop, motivated to provide while supporting Clara's aspirations. Together, under the warmth of shared ambition, they crafted plans and painted their future with vibrant strokes of possibility. When the snow began to melt and London breathed life anew, Clara and Thomas held one another, facing the dawn of spring. The burdens felt lighter, the cold grip of winter had given way to radiant hope, a growing belief that dreams weren't distant goals, but achievable realities. Hand in hand, on a sunny afternoon, they strolled through the market, heart soaring. They laughed together at the chaos of life surrounding them. Children played and vendors hailed customers, delighting in the simple joys that often passed unnoticed. Clara felt alive, sensing how the shared struggles shaped their family with resilience and grit. At that moment, she turned to Thomas. "We did it. We chose love, and here we are. Because of you, Clara. You're the anchor that keeps me grounded." "I need you," he said, eyes shining with admiration. Clara smiled back as she held Oliver in her arms, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "And we need you, too." As their family journeyed into a future filled with laughter, growth, and warmth, Clara realized they had unearthed something powerful during the darkest days of winter: a light, a strength that would guide them through every season of life. With new dreams forged in the fires of hardship, they chose a life where ambitions intertwined with love. They would meet whatever came next, heart to heart, hand in hand. The weight of the past enriched their bonds, inspiring them to overcome together. And as they walked forward, Clara felt certain of one thing: love was the true treasure they had uncovered. And so, with their heads held high, they ventured into the bright unknown, ready for all that awaited them, knowing that whatever struggles came, they would face them as a family, united in hope and love. Don't wait not even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible transformation. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartwarming journey. You need to be part of this amazing community.